This is part two of our interview with Luis, who is our group moderator, but who also happens to work at the Department of State. He has an insight on the interworkings of an embassy, and we get to ask him more questions today. So follow along.
You're watching dcbornrob, erasing borders. And now, the news.
Gotcha. Good answer. Somebody's at home. Somebody's at work. Okay. What is an embassy's role when a citizen is robbed, murdered, or dies? What does the embassy do to help the survivors?
I believe the embassy, what they usually do is try to provide as much information as they can. Basically, I feel that most embassies will try to at least do the general services that they usually do when someone passes in another country. For example, it kind of brings me back to assistance when in cases of emergency. Let's say, for example, you ran out of money and you're in a foreign country, then the U.S. Embassy will assist you and give you, will send you back home, but you're going to pay the government back. It's a loan. They pay your ticket, but they'll pay them back. I'm not sure if they charge you interest. But I believe when in terms of when someone passes, they will obviously send personal belongings. They'll give you as much information as to when, why, how, where the body is being held at. Probably give you a point of contact of who to contact in terms of the whereabouts of the next of kin. When it comes to reparations and who's responsible, that goes down to the law enforcement of that local area. The embassy just focuses more on getting that information, communicating to the family on what happened, so you'll know exactly. That's why a STEP program is important, because something does happen, and somehow the word travels to the embassy, and that something happens to an American citizen. They have your information, they have your emergency contact, and they'll let the next of kin know what happened if someone shall pass. Mm-hmm. But not much can be done except for they'll try and consult with the family. Like I said, they'll tell them what happened and where, how, but they will try to speak to the authorities there, but there's only so much it can do if the authorities in that country doesn't request the assistance.
Well, let's say the family, and again, not to be specific on any one case, but if the family of an American family still in the U.S. has someone that's murdered in another country, the local authorities are going to be on the case to try to find what happened. But does the embassy owe any responsibility to the family to at least pass on certain information? Here's what's going on with the trial. We have it down to this. We know they live in this area. We're working the case. We found out this. Do they have any responsibility as far as passing on this information to the surviving family?
They do at some point, but at the same time, they may have information, but they don't want to disclose it due to it may ruin the investigation. It might tip off suspects, that might see, they might notice that they're being noticed or being called, or very close to being caught. So they keep it very tight knit. They will only disclose certain information, just enough for you to know exactly what happened. In terms of case progress, it will depend on the situation, really. And they certainly do. I feel like they certainly do have responsibility to tell the family exactly what happened, and ultimately it will. They will tell the family what happened, who's who, the suspects, where they are, what's happening. Is there a court case? Is there a trial? Yes, they will. But that's towards when it's finalized, when they finally catch the individual, the perpetrators. Because right now it's still too early, even though something may have happened, it might be still too early. It might be, not much information yet on the case, and they're just trying to wait it out. And then when things are secure and more information, and they finally have the suspect or people responsible for whatever happened, then they're able to communicate more. Because I believe they just limit the information, and the limit for a certain reason is just to avoid disclosing too much information that may ruin the Colombian government's attempt to solve the crime.
I get that, but you would figure that they would at least give you an idea as to what's going on. You can say what's going on without giving specifics. Okay, we have 10 people working this case. We're looking at this, and that. That's all we can tell you right now. And as soon as we know more, we'll let you know. I mean, don't give specifics or anything, of course. That's just me, because again, I'm going to ask some other questions.
Yeah.
At another time.
At the same time, it's also up to the Colombian government. Are they cooperating with the government, with our government? Are they giving information to our government? And they may not, too. Sometimes there's only so much that the U.S. government can do.
But wouldn't they pass that on? Hey, family, they're not cooperating with us. That's not a secret. That shouldn't be a secret.
No, not at all. But sometimes it depends on the individual as well, who's processing that communication toward the family. Maybe they're not. I would like to say maybe they're not sensitive enough to tell them they're not sharing information with us yet, but have patience with us. We'll let you know something if something comes up.
Wow.
I mean, hopefully it's not the case, but there's several dynamics that can happen. There's several dynamics that can play. But
I hope you're right about all of this and that they're working behind the scenes diligently. I don't buy it right now. That's just me my personal opinion, from never having dealt with an embassy before to now dealing with one and finding out that they are trying to do, it seems like, less than a minimum. That's just me. And that's just that specific case. Who's to say? I mean, I don't know. I did have a question too that's not on here, but how often do embassy employees turn over? Is it every election and then everybody needs to get out and then they need to bring in more people?
No, embassy employees they serve a certain location between 2 and 4 years. Usually, well, here's the thing: embassy employee, you got foreign service employees who are diplomats, and they're usually high level staffers, and then you got employees that are not on foreign service, but they work at the embassy. Most of the foreign service or employees are designated as foreign service. Or
what does foreign services mean?
Foreign service, it's someone such as a foreign service officer, which is people who work directly with a country. It could be someone specializing in economy or commerce or negotiations, communicating constantly back and forth with that host country. That's pretty much what it is. This stuff is mandatory. It's foreign service. You're an American government, or you're a U.S. employee working in another country, and it's almost like you have to be tested and interviewed for that process and approved. Diplomats are foreign service, and diplomats of every level, they will serve from my understanding, they usually serve in a hardship country for X amount of years, 2 to 4 years, and they're able to jump up to a more favorable location. And same thing with diplomatic security officers, J agents. They serve in a hotspot country, maybe a remote area, uncomfortable, maybe South Sudan. And they might serve there for 2 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years, and their term will enable them to go to a different country. And same thing with Marine security guards as well. Marine security guards, they're not posted in every embassy, but Marine security guards, same thing. You want to become a Marine security guard, maybe after 4 years in the military, you want to re-enlist, they will say, hey, you know what, I want to go to become a Marine security guard, protect the embassy, and you go to a hotspot, uncomfortable location for 2 years, 3 years, and after that you get a choice to go wherever you want. I'm not so sure about that with the foreign service employees, but they do have a term limit, and usually about 2 to 4 years, and then they change to another country.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Good answer again. Okay. Here's one. How do embassies determine how they should warn their citizens? Do they investigate issues themselves or rely on media reports?
Warn as in like the situation on the ground, or?
I'm not sure if this is an exact case, and I forgot what I wrote, but
Oh, you mean like what we see on the Department of State websites? They give like warnings and, like security warnings, security risks.
Well, let's say that, because obviously anybody, I will tell you one thing the Department of State does well is has an outstanding website. So whoever is working that website, that information is there. We spoke of the STEP program a few minutes ago. Sign up for that. Anybody, I mean, you don't even need to be in the country, but you can sign up for it before you go to a country. I'm signed up for a few different countries. So if any calamity or anything happens, I learn about it. So, but again, the Department of State has a hell of a website. You do good with that, with the warnings, with the PCR. I mean, they were on it. And I was watching that the whole time, whether or not Colombia is going to reopen or not. I'm watching that stuff daily. So they are up to date. Once you see it on the State Department's website, then you can count on it being official. But until then, let's just say, yeah, that type of warning.
Well, yeah, like in the, I mean, this brings me back to my intelligence analysis in the corporate security world and travel security when I used to work for AIG and Goldman. I used to deal with the State Department back then, 11 years ago. I used to communicate with them and say, hey, we got VIPs going down to a meeting in Rio de Janeiro for whatever reason. And I had to research all that information on the State Department, communicate with them. But each country is based on risks level, 1 through 5, 5 being the most, or it might be color coded. High red equals the highest risk, and green meaning the lowest risk. Mm-hmm. But they communicate through, like you said, websites like such as that. They communicate, try to give updates, and if most people who subscribe to services such as State Department, there's other services as well, like ISOS, International SOS, which is a private risk company that helps corporate America to travel safely. Basically, they all depend on those risk levels, and it's up to you on whether you want to go to a certain country with high risk and enjoy yourself and hopefully not experiencing anything bad. And most of the time you won't experience anything bad, but it's there. The risk is there. But they have several ways. They have the website, they have emails, they have phones, and anything that changes can pop up into your device or email and keep you up to date on certain changes within a certain country of your choice.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, let's say, I don't know, there's been a bunch of kidnappings in a specific country. How do they find out about that? From watching the news? Or do they have a department that's designated towards crime in that area, and that's how they adjust that threat level?
Well, yeah, I mean, the diplomatic security within that area, the regional security officers, which are special agents within that embassy, are in charge of not just, but they also collaborate with local law enforcement. They do get numbers of what's happening. And especially when it comes to an American citizen, obviously what do most Americans do when they get into trouble or become victims? They go to the embassy, most of them do. And that's logged in, that's, made into a statistical number. And at the end of the year, they generate reports. Well, the year 2020, they 20,000 muggins, in Bogota or wherever else you're going to go. So they keep numbers, just like we have crime stats in the United States. Well, New York City has definitely, but the FBI has crime stats. Whatever incident that happens anywhere in the United States, reports, crime reports, victims, whatever you want to call it, like that information is sent to the FBI, who generates that statistics, and then kind of like you can find out how many the crime stats of a certain location from the FBI. Well, same thing with that country. There's certain countries have law enforcement agency that shares it with embassies in foreign governments as well. And same thing with other foreign governments who warn their citizens about trouble in the United States. they get that information from our government, and they're able to warn their citizens as well.
Okay, you just opened it up for another question, to a generic one. So you're in a country, pick a country, and you are assaulted severely, and somehow you inform the embassy, whether written or you go to the embassy and you tell them this is what happened and you write a report. How long does that report stay with the embassy? And does it stay with the embassy? And is it sent back to the United States hierarchy? Is it sent up the chain?
Well, I believe it's just stayed with the embassy, but the information does go up, but the chain, obviously that information becomes statistical numbers. Is there much they can do? No, it depends on your situation. How, maybe they robbed everything you had, got mugged, you robbed everything you had, and now you can't get home. They'll provide assistance for that. But basically, but in terms of information, it usually just sticks around toward that region, and that information becomes available by the numbers, like statistical numbers, or or information like, well, last year, 2 weeks ago, an American citizen got mugged. They don't have any names, but it becomes an update, really.
Well, yeah, but if they go to the embassy themselves and they fill out a report and report a crime, isn't there a paper trail there that a FOIA could pull out? Or
yeah, there's a paper trail, and that's only if you go to the embassy. Yeah. But most people won't, and it depends on the situation. Some people might just get roughed up and nothing else happens. And I mean, more things can happen, but I mean, sometimes it never proceeds to the embassy. It all depends. But there is a paper trail, and it's and everything to do with the federal government is a paper trail. They want your name, when and why do you apply to this? So there's a paper trail, and wherever it ends up, I'm not sure. But basically, there is a paper trail, and it definitely starts off with that embassy. If you go to the embassy, if you seek there will be a paper trail.
Now, what if you call? If you call and something happened to you, do they still log that because they want to ask you, who are you? How long have you been here? What's your phone number? What's your contact information? So there has to be something written, even if you make a phone call, correct?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're hospitalized. Where are you? And they want, they want as much information as you can, as they can get, because maybe you're not able to call anyone from your home. Maybe so they will ask.
Okay.
Information and of your whereabouts, your personal being, your emergency contacts. They will ask, because that's what they do. They have to find out. They gotta assist you. Especially when you're in a bind like that. That's not your fault, or So that's one thing that they will do for sure.
Okay, 2 more questions. We're almost done. Appreciate this, really, Luis. This is some valuable information. I have to cut it up into two different videos now, because I know, on YouTube, people can't watch for a long period of time. But what are some of the reasons why embassies reject visa applications?
There's many reasons. The most popular, I won't say popular, but the most of common reasons is we're talking about if a local of that country applies for a visa, is most likely is because of criminality in the past. Most countries will request a police report, and that person, the applicant, is responsible towards getting a transcript of a police report from the police department, or however they get it. They need to get a police report or a record of police involvement. But most of the time, it's usually had to do with crime or terrorism. Like, is that name very common in terms of like the terrorist list? Maybe that person has a common name that shows up on a blacklist of the government, like a no-fly list, or there's certain things that happen. Sometimes they'll reject you because they need more information. They need to investigate you more. And sometimes they will reject you, make you reapply again until they get just enough information to approve you. So,
okay. Well,
so basically,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's basically like they, most of it has something to do with a criminal history, or maybe something more than that in the background that they find out. Or if you're married, for example, trying to get into the United States by marriage, might be something with your marriage. Like maybe you were married before but never dissolved it, or It's a lot of things that can happen. They see something that's not right, they'll just right away reject it or put it on hold for review.
Okay, so let's pull a country out the air. Brazil. Just picking a number, a country I can think of right quick. You're in Brazil and you file you apply for a visa to come to the United States. I think I've seen a document somewhere where you have to check that you have no criminal background. Do they automatically check everybody for a criminal background, or is it the honor system? Okay, I don't have a background. I don't have a criminal background.
Well, they definitely check, because if someone slips into the United States, for example, we don't want what happened to 9/11. Those individuals that carried out the attack during 9/11 slipped through the United States. They slipped through the United States as students for flight school, and that's what happened. The United States government does not want something like that to happen, or even if something happened at a low level, it becomes an embarrassment. So they really will check, and even if you do tick off no criminality, they will want you to go get a form at the police department or an office of public records to validate that you do not, and bring you that transcript that says, oh yeah, you're right, there's no criminality. So whether or not you check off that little box, it's most likely that you will be forced to get a transcript.
Okay, here's part B then. Is it an arrest record or a conviction record that they're looking for? Let's say you've been accused of murder a couple of times and kidnapping or something like that. And does that stay with that person? Is that something they would look at, or is it only that you've been to trial and you've been convicted of something?
Well, I think it's like every country is different, because the arrest record and conviction record is the system that we use in the Western world, in the United States, the UK, maybe Western Europe. But I can't say much about the countries such as Brazil or Cambodia. I mean, they might not even have an arrest record system. They might just have strictly a conviction record system. And it'll depend on where you are, because we've seen there's very poor countries who lack such sophistication to have systems to keep track of such two different things, such an arrest record and a conviction record. Here, yes, you can get in trouble, but never get convicted, get let go for free. They may say, you're innocent. You never stole in your entire life. You were wrongfully accused, but you still have an arrest record. Mm-hmm. No matter what. But it all depends on the country, because some countries don't have a system. They might have just strictly conviction.
Okay, so part C, the same question. You apply for a visa, you get a visa, tourist visa or whatever, you come here to the United States, and then somehow the United States finds out that you have been accused of murder, robbery, rape, everything. Is that reason to recall that person or to hold that person?
Well, from my understanding, they will make you wait. Information such as that will come out, and that's why things take years for you to get approved. In certain cases, there are people that wait 2 years, 1 year, 4 years to get approved, and that's because they're getting information off, siphoning out information for that person. But I've never seen anybody get approved for a visa only to be let in and find out that they lied. If that ever happens, obviously they will hold that person and deport them. They lied on their application, and that's almost like visa fraud, I believe. But okay. Basically,
well, part D, if I didn't hit D already, or E, wherever I am, let's say you did that, you lied on it, but you waited, whether you lied or not, it took 4 years to get approved or 2 years to get approved. But during that time, you were accused or you committed a crime. Do they actually go back and look at it? Or do they just say, it's been 4 years, yep, you're good. We checked 4 years prior. Of course, they're not checking every day. So I don't know, do they check one more time before they actually give you the visa?
No, they do check. They do periodic checks. They can't just go ahead and make you wait 4 years. You apply, maybe nothing ever happened during the initial application, and then something happens during the middle of the process, they do check one more time,
Okay.
or a couple. They do. It's kind of a given. You have to check. That's like covering your behind. Whoever's doing the check-in, they have to do it, because otherwise they have no job. There's no due diligence. So they have to do the due diligence.
Okay, last question. I'm past all part A, B, C, D, E. When something is wrong, how does an embassy exercise diplomacy to ensure that the message gets across loud and clear, but remains cordial and respectful?
Well, like when something goes wrong, the United States will protest their disagreement. Whoever they are involved with, whatever happened in that certain location, they will protest. They'll call meetings. They'll meet with the ambassador, diplomats. There's teams. There's teams of negotiators. It's almost like a corporate corporation. There's different key elements, key people that are in charge of certain things. If the ambassador wants something done, not just from DC, but the ambassador, him or herself, wants something done, needs something done, they will dispatch her staff or diplomats who are lower level diplomats, but they do a lot of negotiation. They will try and get to the bottom. Maybe tell whatever country that they're having an issue with, like, listen, we may hold funds from for your police training next year.
Mm-hmm.
You're slotted for $1 billion, but we feel like you can do better, and we feel that you're violating certain terms and agreements. So let's just hold that back for a couple until we, they can basically wiggle their carrot in front of the country and force that country to comply, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
is it ethical? Maybe not. Diplomat side, I think it'd be ethical, but
Well, they're working for the betterment of America, so I don't see, that
but
part.
they definitely do that. They can do various methods of enticing or convincing. Maybe you take a little bit of something, and that country might not want to tarnish the relationship. Might be our allies, very good allies, and and they need our funds for a certain program, and they may not want to lose that, so they'll comply, one way or another, or they'll come to terms in an agreement and reestablish relations again.
Okay. Well, this is all valuable information, Luis. I really appreciate you taking the time out on the weekend to come on here and offer this information. This is information that I think the viewers need to know. My whole thing is I want people to travel, number one, but travel safely and return. And Luis is a regular to Medellin. So if you haven't seen him yet, or if you're not in the app, join the app, first of all. If you're not in our app for Colombia, join the app. And Luis is the moderator. But he's done extra work. For instance, somebody asked me a couple of days ago, I'm going to Colombia first time next week. Where's a good place to stay? I said, well, you can go and you can type in Medellin hotels, because you did that document for there, Bucaramanga, or wherever else you did it for, Bogota, where you can find a nice Airbnb. All that information is there, and this is the gentleman that's responsible for it. So thank you so much for your assistance, Luis. Is there anything else that you think I didn't ask that needs to be put out about the State Department or the embassy structure itself? Anything that I missed asking that you want to put out?
No, like as you mentioned, like I mentioned before, like the embassy is there for two reasons: to assist citizens, whether they're in distress or maybe general services that you may need. Maybe you got married to a Colombian woman and wants to, take her to the United States. You got something like that, and also it also represents the what's that word I want to say, the connection between the U.S. government and the foreign government. That's their go-to place. That's where they make negotiations happen. Mm-hmm. Treaties are happening in the United Nations, but treaties are also like observed in those embassies as well. So there's various programs. It's not just regular, visas and marriage licenses and birth certificates and legal help but there's other tons of other stuff. There's things that. Yeah, I think basically just to touch up is the embassy is there to help citizens and also locals who wish to travel to the United States, but it's also there to continue relations with that host government, the host country. So one thing for sure is that the United States Embassy, one common myth of a U.S. Embassy is that people believe that the United States Embassy is a sovereign territory, and we can run to the United States Embassy and you'll be protected. But in fact, you're not. You're actually the embassy's in charge of respecting that sovereign land. It's the host country's land. It's just that there's certain special rights that embassy personnel or high-level personnel get, like diplomatic immunity. Those, so those people that think that they can make trouble and run.
They just left it and come back on.
I think it's my Wi-Fi. Is it my Wi-Fi? I think it's my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no worries. That was a good thought to end on. I always thought that, like in the movies, you can just make it back to the embassy and hey, tag, I'm home, and you safe. And you're saying that's not so.
No, definitely not. It's a common myth, and it's definitely depending on the embassy, is for protection. Unless you're in severe danger, they won't help you. In danger meaning that your belief is being prosecuted or something's happening that's not, that being that country is endangering you, then they'll help you. But in terms of running towards the embassy because you did something that you're not supposed to do, they won't protect you.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I see that you're locked up again too. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. We commonly believe that was the case, but that was actually a myth, actually. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Thanks again. It's locking up again now. So I'm going to end now. We got some good information from Luis. So thank you so much. Hope to have you on again soon. He's our main Medellin contact there too. He's there. I don't know how many times he's there every month or so. It seems like you beat me anyway. I haven't been in like 3 months. Hey, by the way, check out El Salvador. Last video should be posting while we're recording this. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon, Luis. Thanks so much for taking time out on your weekend.
We have a YouTube channel, like it.
Please comment and share if you like the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.